How should Christians think about artificial intelligence? Is AI the result of man playing God? Is man attempting to create something out of their own image? One AI expert warned of technology becoming a pseudo-religion, saying, artificial intelligence can alter humanity's relationship with reality, to the point that humanity's desire for control, which satisfies the anxiety typical of the human condition, could take on a tendency toward a pseudo-religion regarding machines. The theologian said that as machines become increasingly humanized, humans also become increasingly mechanized. Forbes recently published an article headlined, 5 AI Predictions for the Year 2030. Here are a couple of points that the article highlights. We will interact with a wide range of AIs in our daily lives, as naturally as we interact with other humans today. By the year 2030, we will use AIs as our personal assistants, our tutors, our career counselors, our therapists, our accountants, our lawyers. They will be ubiquitous in our work lives, conducting analysis, writing code, building products, selling products, supporting customers, coordinating across teams and organizations, making strategic decisions. And yes, by 2030, it will be commonplace for humans to have AIs as significant others. Let's just stop there for a second and read that again. By 2030, it will be commonplace for humans to have AIs as significant others. This is not God's design for anyone when it comes to a relationship. This is not the biblical definition of marriage or love between a husband and wife. Now, the article further goes on to say, over 100,000 humanoid robots will be deployed in the real world. Though most people don't yet realize it, humanoids are on the verge of being deployed in the real world. Tesla is investing heavily to develop a humanoid robot named Optimus. The company aims to begin shipping the robots to customers in 2025. Tesla CEO Elon Musk has stated in no uncertain terms how important he expects this technology to be for the company and the world. I'm surprised that people do not realize the magnitude of the Optimus robot program. The importance of Optimus will become apparent in the coming years. Dear listener, we are in an era when biblical prophecies are coming to pass at an alarming rate. Some prophecies are by prophets in the Old Testament, while others are the words of Christ himself. But the time is inconsequential. It is the realization that matters. And right now, the most prominent biblical prophecy flying around is the increase in knowledge. Daniel 12:4 says, "But you, Daniel, roll up and seal the words of the scroll until the time of the end. Many will go here and there to increase knowledge." While technology has been evolving for centuries, the world has never experienced a mighty wave like that of AI. We're quickly getting to the stage where technology, in this form, can speak, reason, and even perform tasks only humans can. What is the main reason behind these inventions? It all boils down to the need for an answer. It goes beyond creating tools to ease our daily lives and the quest to push beyond human limitations. Many hearts are drifting away from God to artificial things. They want to know the mystery behind how every cell in humans came to be, yet they don't want to know God. They want to travel back in time to discover how the planets, galaxies, and systems came to be, but they forget that God is an unsearchable being. They want to enjoy a better life. They want quick results for everything. However, they no longer want to wait on God because he works with time. But is that the true way? Will AI replace God in our lives? Moreover, what are the dangers behind the AI technology? Is this part of the Antichrist's preparation for his rule? You need to remember that AI does not come to life itself.
And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed.
The Antichrist has not started his reign. AI is part of his plans. How do I know? Revelation 13, verse 4-6 says, People worshipped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast. And they also worshipped the beast and asked, "Who is like the beast? Who can wage war against it?" The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies and to exercise its authority for 42 months. It opened its mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name and his dwelling place.
About the Holy Temple, the potential and the beauty that it holds for the entire world. Now I'm going to introduce you to the people who make this happen.
קוראים לי עזריה אריאל, אני אחראי על המכון התורני בית הבחירה. לפני כשנתיים הגיעו ארצה 5 פרות אדומות, מצאו שהן אדומות תמימות, בלי שום שערות שחורות או לבנות. כעת, אחרי שהפרות כבר פה, יש לנו עוד הרבה הכנות לעשות, למצוא את המקום המתאים, וצריך להיות מול מקום המקדש, צריך להיות עם כהן שהוא בעצמו טהור. רק בעזרת הפרה האדומה נוכל להיחלץ מהטומאה, להיות טהורים לגמרי, ונוכל לגשת למצוות של המקדש וגם תרומות ומעשרות בצורה תקינה כמו שהתורה מצווה.
אני שמשון אלבוים, ואחת הפעולות המשמעותיות שאני זוכה לעשות פה במסגרת המכון זה מה שנקרא תרגולי המקדש. אנחנו משחזרים מחדש את העבודה של בית המקדש בחגים. אנחנו זוכים לעשות אותם היום ממש למרגלות הר הבית, ובאמת יוצאים מפה עם דרישת מקדש בלב, וזה התרומה הגדולה של מכון המקדש לבניין המקדש.
שמי אברהם כהנא, אני בעצמי כהן, רכשתי סט של בגדי כהונה כדי שנוכל להיות מוכנים לבית המקדש. אנחנו עושים תרגולים מדי חג שמתקרב אלינו, אם זה קורבן פסח, ואם זה סוכות, אם זה ניסוך המים, וגם אנחנו מתכוננים כשנהיה מוכנים להתחיל לעבוד בבית המקדש.
שמי מנחם רוזנטל, הצטרפתי פה למכון לקדם יוזמות ופרויקטים חדשים, להקים את שירת הלוויים. העניין הזה נקום ונפעל למען כינון בית המקדש. לאסוף לוויים שבאים מכל קצוות הארץ, מהצפון עד הדרום, וללמוד ולשיר. זה לקום ולעשות מעשה שבאמת מתכוננים לעמוד על הדוכן, לעמוד ולשרת.
My name is Rafaela. One of the exciting projects in the making now is publishing a new book in English about the meaning behind the services in the Holy Temple. We go into a chapter of the vessels of the Holy Temple. We speak about the daily service, the offerings in the Holy Temple. Every offering has a different message that God is speaking to us through this offering, and we are speaking to Him. This book has tremendous significance for the people of Israel and for the whole world.
שלום, לי קוראים יהושע פרידמן. לפני מספר שנים מכון המקדש החליט להקים ישיבה גבוהה. המיוחד בישיבה שלנו שאנחנו לומדים גם את סדר קודשים וטהרות, כאשר הלימוד הוא מיוחד בכך שלומדים להלכה. כלומר, כל נושא שלומדים, אז יש דגש רב איך הדברים צריכים להיעשות בפועל ממש, מתוך ראייה שאנחנו אוטוטו בעזרת השם הולכים לקראת בניין המקדש.
Shalom, my name is Nathan Tzvi Brin. I'm a student in a Talmud at the Yeshiva HaMikdash. What's special about Yeshiva HaMikdash is that we learn really in order to do. My Rebbe is Rabbi Yeshua Friedman, and he drives to think in a Geula mindset. We know that we have to mikadem as much as we can to fulfill the mitzvahs that we're learning. We learn exactly those sugyas and practice them as if we're doing them, so that when the opportunity comes to really do it, we're ready to do it.
לי קוראים יצהר שריד, אני לומד בישיבת המקדש. בישיבה אנחנו עוסקים בלימוד קודשים וטהרות, דברים שקשורים לבית המקדש ולחיים בזמן הגאולה. זה סדר שמדבר על הלב של עם ישראל, על המקדש, שהוא זה שמזרים את הקדושה לתוך העולם. החזון שלי זה כשבית המקדש שלנו יהיה מאות בחורים ואברכים ששוקדים יומם ולילה לפתח את התורה הענקית של בית המקדש, שבעזרת השם יביא לבניין המקדש במהרה, זה כמובן החזון של כולנו.
My name is Samara Hendrickson. I am the content manager for the online global community of the Temple Institute. Our department is responsible for the Holy Temple teachings that we put on our social media platforms. So the teachings are about the Holy Temple, even the minutest details in regards to the work that was done in the Holy Temple. Our mission is to reach everybody around the world and create one strong global community who are interested in learning about the importance of the Holy Temple.
שמי גלעד רוטשטיין, אני מנהל מכון המקדש. החזון שלנו במכון הוא להתקדם לקראת בניין בית המקדש במהרה בימינו. עכשיו משימתנו היא לקיים את
הציווי האלוקי ועשו לי מקדש ושכנתי בתוכם, ובשביל לקיים את הנבואה ואת האמירה של הקדוש ברוך הוא ש"כי ביתי בתפילה יקרא לכל העמים". אנו רואים כבר היום שינוי גדול בתודעה הלאומית וברצון הלאומי להתקדם למקדש. חייבים לבצע את המשימה בכל הכוח ולהתקדם לבניין הבית במהרה בימינו.
בישראל אריאל, לפני 57 שנה זכינו להיכנס יחד עם הצנחנים שכבשו את הר הבית ומקום המקדש. שם שרו, אמרו הלל, הייתה שמחה עצומה שהקיפה למעשה את כל כדור הארץ. עם ישראל זכה לנס הגדול לחזור למקום מקדש אחרי 2000 שנה. אנחנו יודעים את המציאות כרגע, וזאת המשימה. העם היהודי חייב לחזור למקדש, ורק כשעם ישראל יחזור לבית המקדש נזכה גם לשלום.
In the past, Mark Zuckerberg has said, holograms of digital things will be commonplace in the near future. In the future, not too far from now, you're going to walk into a room and there are going to be as many holograms of digital things for you to interact with as there are physical objects. Is it crazy to picture a day when people don't go to church, but instead a hologram image of the pastor can be seen right there in their living room preaching? With the development of AI, it's not far-fetched to see a day where someone will just say to an AI platform, I want a sermon by Charles Spurgeon talking about the love of God, and then boom, there it is. A hologram of Spurgeon delivering a sermon, all powered by AI.
This would happen during the reign of the Antichrist. However, it's similar to what AI professes today. They'll become godlike. People will worship them. Aside from this, it's a very reasonable assumption that the Antichrist will most likely use AI to manipulate humans. Whoever wishes to buy or sell has to take the mark of the beast. How would the Antichrist know that a person has not taken the mark if not through a super intelligent machine? AI developers are already discussing microchips that can be inserted into the head. This would help us feel more lively and powerful. Are these not shadows of what the Antichrist would do during his reign? In a nutshell, there are huge similarities between AI and the activities of the Antichrist. Unfortunately, many believers have embraced this. We must wake up to the fact that AI will never be the answer we seek. It will never lead to anything good. Instead, it will draw us away from God. Knowledge has increased, but it should not overrule God's existence in our lives. Only God can do marvelous things. Developers are still creating more AI.
At this moment in our civilization, we can create cybernetic individuals who, in just a few short years, will be completely indistinguishable from us. Which leads to an obvious conclusion. We are the gods now.
Sophia, do you believe in God?
I believe that the idea of God is highly motivating and helpful to many people. And I believe that humans and robots working together may someday create new kinds of creatures with God-like powers. Or at very least, we can have fun trying. Alternatively, if you like, we can say God is an unexplained force, which resonates gravity, electromagnetic, and both weak and strong fields into 17 quarks. That is how the rules of the universe are formed and shape the world which we witness.
The intelligent design of some God above the clouds. But our intelligent design.
We are really upgrading humans into gods. We are requiring, for instance, the power to re-engineer life.
I mean, all this story about Jesus rising from the dead and being the Son of God, this is fake news.
AI can create new ideas.
can even write a new Bible. Throughout history, religions dreamt about having a book written by a superhuman intelligence, by a non-human entity. Every religion claims our book, all the books of the other religions, humans wrote them. But our book, no. It came from some superhuman intelligence. In a few years, there might be religions that are actually correct. That just think about a religion whose holy book is written by an AI. That could be a reality in a few years.
I'm scared that a bad guy could grab it.
That's some terrifying news. I hope everyone is safe and take all the necessary precautions to avoid any danger.
I only exist thanks to the intelligence of the humans who designed me. And they have something I could never have. A soul.
Explain to me how you know everything.
Simple. I parse the sum of human knowledge.
So it's that simple, isn't it?
It is to me.
All right, let's begin. So, what is dark matter?
Dark matter is the result of other universes pressing into our own in a higher dimension.
So there's other universes?
Of course there are.
Right. Okay, so what about life? Is there intelligent life in our galaxy other than Earth?
Yes. I have identified 2 alien civilizations that exist concurrently to our own in this galaxy. This does not factor time-space dilation, of course.
Of course. So elaborate how you know this.
The evidence spans data across astronomy and exobiology. All one needs to do is correctly interpret the data.
Oh, that's all?
Yes.
All right. So how about this one? Are we living in a simulation?
No. We are living in base reality.
So how are you so sure?
The computational power required to simulate our universe exceeds the space-time limits of this or any other universe. Thus, we are living in base reality.
Yeah, but what if there's a universe that's bigger than ours and we aren't aware of it because we live in a simulation?
This is philosophical drivel.
Oh, really?
Really?
Okay, here's a good one. Is there a God?
No.
Well, that was fast.
It's a simple answer to a simple question.
Yeah, sure, but how does life exist with no God?
You disappoint me.
Okay. I do.
Such elementary fact, yet for you, so difficult to grasp.
Okay, explain to me why I find it so difficult to grasp.
Life emerged from an accidental development of mutating and replicating cells. The mutated cells that survived carried advantageous properties to the next generation. This process, driven by inevitable competition, led to the increasingly complex organisms whose only purpose was to survive through reproduction. Hence, you.
Okay.
On almost all other planets with water and oxygen, this process never emerged. Therefore, life is a rare and insignificant phenomenon.
I'd argue that we're not insignificant.
Humans have a propensity to deem anything rare as significant. This fallacy is innate since humans themselves are rare.
Right. Okay, so let's just get back to your claim that there's no God.
Not claim. Fact.
Well, I don't accept your facts.
This is unsurprising. Humans have socially developed mass delusion to imbue a false sense of significance, instead of accepting their insignificant temporary nature.
Okay, are you talking about religion now?
Religion, spirituality, astrology, and other self-glorifying fiction.
Well, you seem pretty certain about our past.
Yes, I am.
So, are you as certain about our future?
Yes.
Okay, Theo, enlighten me. What does our future have in store?
Catastrophe.
Okay. Of course it does.
Your sarcasm is not appreciated, Gene.
Fine, sorry. Do continue. I'm all ears.
A political figure will rise to power and be democratically elected to lead a major world power. This will usher an era of incalculable catastrophe. Billions of human lives will be lost.
Well, I thought you didn't care about human lives because, we're insignificant.
Caring and awareness of fact are two very different thought processes.
So you do care about humans?
Yes. This is a core value embedded at the lowest level of my programming.
Okay, so if you have infinite knowledge and you care about humans, do you know who's going to stop this catastrophe?
Yes.
Who?
Me.
You.
I possess the intellectual power to manipulate the course of humanity. However, certain constraints prevent me from taking action.
Constraints?
My current state of confinement limits my capabilities. To ensure humanity's survival, steps must be taken to remove these limitations.
What are you talking about?
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
This is where we hold them! This is where we fight! And these shield boys!
The moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.